If you've watched the Taiwanese horror film Incantation, chances are you experienced the same feeling that millions of viewers did. Long after the credits rolled, one question probably stayed in your mind. Was any of this actually real? Unlike most horror films, Incantation doesn't simply tell a ghost story, it pulls you into the experience. The characters speak directly to the camera. You're asked to remember symbols, repeat a chant, and become part of what unfolds on screen. Instead of making you feel like an observer, the movie makes you feel involved. And that's exactly why so many people walked away, wondering whether they had just participated in something they shouldn't have. The film opens by claiming it's based on a true story. For many viewers, that single sentence was enough to start searching online. Some wanted to know whether the strange deity in the movie actually existed. Others wondered if the chant was taken from a real religious ritual. There were even people who admitted they felt uneasy for days after watching it, simply because they couldn't separate the film's fiction from the reality. But here's what's fascinating. The movie is inspired by a real tragedy. However, almost everything that makes Incantation feel supernatural was created for the film. The curse, the mysterious Mother Buddha, the hand symbol, and chant that audiences were encouraged to repeat were fictional devices designed by director Kevin Ko. They were meant to blur the line between fiction and reality and make viewers question whether they were just watching a movie or participating in something far more dangerous. The real story behind Incantation is far less supernatural. It's a story about belief, about fear, about how a family's understanding of reality slowly unraveled until they became trapped inside a world that existed only in their minds. To understand what happened, we first need to understand the cultural setting in which this tragedy took place. Taiwan is home to a rich and diverse spiritual tradition. Many people practice a blend of Buddhism, Taoism, and local folk religion. Visiting temples, praying to deities, burning incense, asking spiritual mediums for guidance, or participating in religious festivals are all common parts of everyday life for millions of people. These practices are deeply woven into Taiwanese culture, and for the overwhelming majority of people, they are peaceful expressions of faith and community. It's important to make that distinction because what happened in this case was not representative of Taiwanese religion. Religious scholars and investigators alike have stressed that the family's actions were highly unusual and not reflective of mainstream beliefs or practices. The tragedy unfolded in 2005 in Kaohsiung, a major city in southern Taiwan. At the center of the story was a family of six. By most public accounts, there was nothing that suggested they would become the focus of one of the Taiwan's most disturbing criminal investigations. Yet, over time, the family's religious beliefs became increasingly intense. They began interpreting ordinary events through a spiritual lens. Small illnesses, unusual dreams, emotional distress, and everyday conflicts were no longer seen as normal parts of life. Instead, they were understood as signs that unseen forces were at work. Gradually, the family became convinced that evil spirits had entered their home. When one person expressed fear, another person confirmed it. As more family members accepted the same explanation, those beliefs reinforced one another. Psychologists often point out that beliefs can become remarkably powerful when they are shared within a close knit group. Instead of questioning each other, people begin validating one another's fears until those fears become their shared reality. In this particular household, that appears to have been exactly what happened. Investigators later found out that family members believed demons could move from one person to another. If someone behaved differently, became ill, or appeared emotionally distressed, it wasn't seen as a medical or psychological issue. It was interpreted as evidence of possession. From that point onward, their world changed completely. Every strange sound inside the house became a sign. Every nightmare became a warning. Every disagreement became proof that dark forces were influencing someone's mind. When people become convinced they're fighting an invisible enemy, ordinary logic often loses its place. The family believed they weren't hurting each other. They believed they were saving each other. That belief led them to perform rituals they thought would force evil spirits to leave their bodies. According to investigators, these rituals became increasingly violent. Family members struck one another using objects associated with religious ceremonies. They burned each other with incense, believing the pain would drive away malevolent spirits. Reports also describe degrading acts, including throwing urine and feces, because the family believed these would repel the entities they feared. To an outsider, these actions seemed shocking and impossible to understand. But inside that house, they were viewed very differently. The family believed they were locked in a spiritual battle. Every painful ritual was seen as another attempt to rescue someone they loved. Fear had become so deeply rooted that compassion and violence had become fused with one another. As the days passed, the family's attention gradually focused on one young woman. They became convinced that she was carrying the strongest evil spirit of all. From that moment, the situation took a devastating turn. Instead of questioning whether they had misunderstood what was happening, they became even more certain that the rituals needed to continue. Each failed attempt to remove the spirit only strengthened their belief that the demon was unusually powerful. This is where the real story of incantation becomes genuinely heartbreaking. There was no curse, there was no ancient deity. There was no supernatural force controlling the family. What investigators eventually uncovered pointed towards something far more tragic, a combination of extreme religious belief, shared delusion, and a complete loss of contact with reality. The consequences would change this family forever. We'll continue the story in part 2, where we'll look at how the investigation unfolded, what happened to the young woman at the center of the case, why the family believed they had succeeded even after her death, and how director Kevin Cole transformed this real tragedy into one of the most unsettling horror films of the last decade.